All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Las Vegas Rotary Club. I am President Greg McGuire, the 104th president of the best Rotary Club in the entire universe. This is a very unique day. This is the first day I'm going to host a meeting with a microphone. So the jokes will probably be twice as funny today, okay? So with that, if we could start the meeting, and we can have Linda Peterson with the invocation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you could kindly bow your head and reflect on this. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together in fellowship and service. We are grateful for the chance to be part of Rotary, an organization committed to making a positive difference. In a world often divided, fill our hearts with kindness, patience, and compassion. Help us treat all people with dignity and respect, because true strength is found not in winning arguments, but in extending grace and seeking understanding. Guide us to speak honestly, listen sincerely, and choose conversation over assumption, understanding over judgment, and reconciliation over conflict. We thank you for the food before us, and we ask for your blessing on our newly elected president and board. Grant them the wisdom and humility as they lead, and inspire each of us to step forward, offer our talents, and serve our community with willing hands and generous hearts. May our efforts strengthen our fellowship, enrich our community, and reflect service above self. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Linda. Beautiful. And song leader will be Susan Ziozo, our secretary.
Hello, fellow Rotarians and most welcome guests. I have decided, because it's still July, we will sing the Star Spangled Banner, and I'll give you the note.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, well done. And our Sergeant at Arms today is Larry, back from an extended vacation. And all he wants to do is talk about the next vacation he's going on. So Larry, if you can lead us in the pledge, please.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, seat, please. As always, thanks everybody who signed up to help us out today. Set up was Lynn and Michael. Greeters were Harrison and Larry Cohn. Ticket sales, Erica and Tom from Morelli. Photographer, Mijong. Welcome back, Mijong. Where is she at? Our wonderful scribe is Mr. Elliot Harris. Thank you, sir. And AV Teen Stu, making it happen for us again. And I really appreciate the microphone this week. It's going to make things a little bit easier. And of course, tear down Michael Williams, also back from a trip to Iowa. So thank you, Michael. And Branton Blunt, one of our program chairs. Thank you, sir. International guests, I don't think we have any here today. And any visiting Rotarians? Any guests of Rotarians? in the back, Dr. Mahone, right here, Larry, right here.
Hi, I'm, of course, I'm Ann, and this is my son Billy. He came with me today, and we're glad to be here.
All right, welcome.
I brought with me my girlfriend of 35 years and wife. Sandy. We want Sandy.
And there's one more in the back here. Two more. All right, we'd like to welcome past president Jackie Thornhill as a guest. Stand up, Jackie. All right, welcome back, Jackie.
I have my good friend David.
Welcome, David. Larry back there.
I have two guests from City National Bank, Mr. Phil, Kalana, and Ivan Vasquez.
Okay, welcome all our guests. Mike, did you have one good?
We also have John Richard is here for his second lunch and is getting to know everyone so he feels comfortable when he applies.
Where's John at?
Over there.
All right, John, welcome back. Good to see you. And our head table today, joining me is our guest speaker, David Jones, and his wife, Sandy. Past President Mike Ballard, past President Brock Fraser, and Mr. Brandon Blunt. We'll get a picture. Yes. Very good. All right, great. Well, it's great to have everybody back here today in another warm summer day here in Las Vegas. We have a couple of announcements today, so Larry, if you're prepared, we'll take the first one to Mr. Tom Fumarelli.
Thank you, Greg. So speaking on behalf of the members of the 25 Club, we are going to be helping to sponsor the Alpine Picnic on the 29th, which Tom Thomas and his wife are very gracious to host, so thank you, Tom. We want to remind everyone that there's a sign-up sheet in the Green Book, so the sooner you sign up, the better, because we are trying to keep track of the numbers, because we'll be ordering all the food, etc. So we hope to see you there. It promises to be a great day. Please sign up in the Green Book.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And please take the microphone to President-elect Mike Kuyamant.
Yeah, I'm making an announcement. We have our exchange student coming in. So it's Sophie John from Denmark, and she's landing August 3rd. So any volunteers who wants to meet her in the airport, please let us know. The exchange meeting includes Suleya, Linda Peterson, Karen, and me. So we have a host family, and then Rotary volunteers will meet her at the airport. That's August 3rd.
Okay, great. And Kimberly's here. Thank you, Kimberly, for all you've done for the Rotary Exchange Program also. When I was in Taipei last week, I talked to a lot of people. Mike, Kimberly, how many clubs actually do a Rotary Exchange student, you know?
You mean worldwide or here?
Well, in our district, let's just stay with that.
It depends, maybe 4 or 5. This year it's probably 3.
Yep. So it's a good program. It's a great program. I think you were an exchange student at one point, right? So that's that was one of the things that stuck with me. Thank you. Was that the exchange program, Rotaract program, the focusing on our youth in Rotary, very, very important for what we end up doing and who ends up joining later on. And Elliot's shaking his head. I think you got the same message over there, right? Okay, Larry, you got an announcement for us.
Yes, pickleball is back, and since our basis of being is fellowship, we've graduated now to the Fellowship Rotary Racket Pickleball Club. So going forth, we are the Fellowship Pickleball Rotary Club. Everybody, the next one's the 25th, 12 to 2 at Vegas Indoor Racquetball on Sunset between Rainbow and Buffalo. So just email me and let me know that you're coming. We have 2 courts reserved for 2 hours.
And the prize is $1,000, I think you said?
And the prize is the exercise you get.
Okay, so fellowships, I don't know, does anybody know what Rotary fellowships are? Does anybody know what a Rotary fellowship is? Karen does, right? And some of the past presidents do. So we're going to do some education on that next week. We'll talk about what the different fellowships are. When I was in Taipei, I joined one for pilots. So it's a group of pilots all over the world, really, and they kind of get together once or twice. There's a whole bunch of different, I think about 100 of them. I don't know if there was an actual pickleball one, but Larry just announced that we started one here in the club, and that's important. So thank you, Larry, for starting our first organic fellowship club.
My pleasure.
Karen, can you take the microphone to past President Karen?
Just a quick reminder, we have 6 ads left in the wheel. If you'd like to advertise them, just let me know after the meeting. Thank you.
Great, thanks for all the work you did on that, Karen, and thank you everybody who so far have contributed. That's really important to our club finances and also to making sure that we can keep the wheel going. Larry, if you could take the microphone to Jerry and David over here.
So Saturday highway cleanup, we would love to have you join us up at Red Rock. We start at 8 this time of year, so it should be a little cooler up there. And then we'll pick up a little trash, get a little sun, some exercise, a beautiful view. And then, of course, we'll meet back at Jerry's house for the big event, which is Bloody Marys. And a great brunch. And I think he has a giant water slide set up this time and some mermaids there. So
Wow, it's getting better every year.
So we'll see you there.
David, what should people wear?
They should wear swimsuits.
Yeah.
Bathing suits. And no,
I'm talking about
Red Rock. There is bushes and weeds and stickers. So either boots or pants. But yeah, it's going to be warm. So dress comfortably, and afterwards we'll.
Probably a good idea.
By the way, the location is directly across from the old Bonnie Springs entrance. So we'll be parked there, you'll find us.
Okay, very good. Looking forward to kicking that off. That'll be our first activity for the year. So thank you for hosting that, Jerry and David. Okay, so Karen mentioned the advertising. It's kind of now or never. So if you haven't contributed to that and you feel like doing that, that would be awesome. Membership drive. Last week I talked about our goal to raise our membership numbers, and the goal is not to just bring large numbers of people in and just figure it out, right? The goal is to bring the right people in. So we may get to 175. You got to have a stake in the ground for where we're going to go, but we're going to bring the right people in, and the right people are people that contribute, that want to go to our events. They come to meetings that really are the right people. Now, Larry said he's recruited every single other Rotarian from all the other clubs to join our club. So, well, that's probably not the way to start, right?
Doesn't make us very popular, no.
No. So just keep that in mind. Again, we're going to have a membership drive. We're going to announce more details of that next week on how that's going to roll out August 15th to October 15th. And the goal is just to kind of get our name out there a little bit more, encourage people. And Rosalie is heading up the corporate membership as well. So we're going to see more of that coming in, and the work that she's doing with her committee is fantastic. I'm really impressed. Big news today, Larry, 1,300. What happens at 1,300 today?
1,300.
The Vegas Golden Knights schedule is announced.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And of course, we probably should arrange a Rotary Club visit for a game, just a little fun.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. If you remember last year, so I got a couple announcements, I guess, that I'm getting out here. Last year we had, I worked with my Amazon group, my Amazon, I have an Amazon delivery company, keep ordering stuff, by the way. But if, Amazon works with the schools in the area, and they donated, I think 120 backpacks, plus all the school supplies, and what we did is kind of combined it with my drivers for the company, and we got the Amazon vans down there, but the Rotarians got together and kind of assembled all the backpacks. So they're gonna do it a little bit earlier this year, which is good news, so that's gonna be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Once I get more details about it, we'll get the backpacks, we'll get the devices, and we'll assemble them, and then we'll have to get with the schools, when, I think when it's here, and figure out, which schools are gonna get donated. So we'll just keep working on that, more to follow on that. Another announcement, this is coming direct from Rotary International. You're gonna love it. AI guidelines for members. AI guidelines for members. And they obviously used AI to do this because it's about 7-8 pages long, right? So, but it is important. We're gonna send this out with the Rotary happenings next week. And it's just kind of important to read this because we're obviously using AI tools here, but it's important to not get carried away with AI. It's basically what it comes down to, and have a couple guidelines on it, and we'll send that out. I see Jorina here. Welcome, our new 25 Club secretary. Thank you for making that happen. Like we said last week, we're going to have a super powerful 25 Club this year, and looking forward to that. We still have some vacant committee chairs. We have a board meeting after the meeting today. So if I could have the directors stand up if you're here. Sean, Debbie, Andrew, Eric, Larry, already standing. So it's Susan, thank you. If you're interested in getting more involved in our club, and Karen, past President Karen, and Nancy's here, Antoinette and Mike, wow, we've got quite a crew here. So talk to one of them. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved. Even if a committee's already kind of full, there's still room for you, trust me. Like we always said in the Navy, there's always room at a round table. Okay, Larry, I think that's it for the announcements. We're going to move into, we have a Paul Harris presentation today, so.
All right. Hi, everyone. You want this short? Okay, great. I know you did. He rushed me last time, so this time he said he's not rushing me. Okay. We are pleased that, and I want to talk a little bit about Rotarian. Oh, sorry. I can talk louder without it. Rotarians associate the meaning of the Paul Harris Fellow as a tribute to a person who has demonstrated a shared purpose and support for the education and humanitarian objectives of the Rotary Foundation. This recognition is named after Rotary's founder, the late Paul Harris, a Chicago lawyer who started Rotary with 3 business associates in 1905. Thomas from Morelli, you were selected today to receive the recognition because past President Thomas Crow believes your life emphasized the humanitarian and educational objectives of the Rotary Foundation. We thank you for demonstrating in your life and vocation a commitment to helping persons in need here and around the world. In being presented with a Paul Harris Fellow recognition, Thomas joins a remarkable company of people throughout the world, all recognized by their commitment to service above self. to benefit local and international communities. It is giving me great pleasure, Thomas, to present you, and Tom, you're going to pan Tom. The emblem of appreciation given to Paul Harris Fellows. And this is your certificate, okay, because you're a first timer, okay? And he is being pinned by Tom. Tom is pinning Tom, everyone. He's working on it. Maybe I should pin you.
Go for it.
I might give you a pin today or next week.
I'll let you go. That's okay, then.
Well, Tom needs help.
Which Tom?
Oh, Tom. There you go. It takes a woman's hand, what can I tell you? Okay, we congratulate you and thank you for your commitment to Rotary's common goals of world understanding and peace. Could you all please stand and help me congratulate Tom? Woo!
Three. There.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we're done with
That looks like a
Okay, so last week I mentioned we're going to have a new app that is going to help us stay organized. Right now we have about 3 or 4 different methods of communication. We have emails, we have text, we have a green book going around, we have the fifth wheel, and then we have the Rotary happenings. And sometimes it's hard to kind of keep up with all of that. So I mentioned last week we were going to move to the new app Club Runner. So if I could ask you all to take out your phones and download the Club Runner app. There's 2 parts to this, and then there'll be only 1 part. So if you can, the first thing you need to do, not today, but you need to go into myrotary.org and update your profile, because that has a direct feed into Club Runner. And so when you get into Club Runner, everybody's in there now. I would work over the weekend to add everybody in there. And you're going to be able, Club Runner, it showed up in the App Store for me. Anybody see it? You got it? See Club Runner, CR? Oh, the public image is coming up. Square me away.
Is this the one?
Yes, it's a big blue, light blue CR. Light blue CR. So we've had a lot of discussions about DAC-DB and Ignite, and there is the district uses DAC-DB, but the issue is we tried to push that forward before, and it got about a 12 to 15% adoption rate. So we're hoping that this Club Runner is going to do a little bit better. So the first thing is just to download the app, and then you'll be able to look for create your login. You should
probably know. This is what shows up.
Yes, so this is in English, Canada. Okay, so your username and your password should be the exact same thing that's in myrotary.org. But the problem is you don't know what that is, right? So the homework is going to be to go back into myrotary.org, and then I will make sure that you get an email invite, but I just want you to have the app first. And once you get that email invite, then you're going to be able to go in and log into Club Runner. And when you get in there, you're going to see some great stuff. And it's, I'll demo it a little bit better next week, but it's kind of better for you to have it when you see it. So every member you can easily reach, email, call, text, whatever, any member. So if you're trying to get a hold of me, for instance, I'll be in there, you look up Greg McGuire, boom, and it sends you an email. For the membership team, they're going to be able to send templates out so that if somebody's interested in joining club, they write it to our website, that Sarah and her team work on, and the person will get an automatic response saying, hey, thanks for your interest in the club, and this is the next steps, right? For events, we were able to go in there and put in, say, the Alpine Picnic, and eventually we can say you can RSVP for the Alpine Picnic through the Club Runner app, and eventually we'll be able to even tie in some financial pieces that I'm not too worried about the financial piece right now as far as charging everybody. There's a lot of back-end pieces to that, so don't worry about that. But you'll be able to RSVP in it, and then you'll also be able to find the event. You'll be able to see all of our events on the calendar, so you can check what's happening and what's going on, and if you can't remember, and you can't remember where the cigar social is, the address will be in that app. So it'll be a one-stop shop for all of that. And then there's a lot of other features and benefits to it too. So get into that. If you have any issues over the next week with Club Runner, I'll send out some additional directions through Sean, and we'll get that kind of working. But we'll also be able to sign up for duties. If you want to be the greeter for next week, you'll get an email that says, hey, there's 2 positions for greeter open, and then basically the first one to tap on that, gets to be a greeter that week. So more to follow on that, but I think it's going to really help us get organized a little bit better, and I think it's kind of a long time coming. So I appreciate your support on that. Yes, I think it is. When adoption of a new app, I've gotten a lot of feedback. We have a lot of older members, and they don't want that, and they just want to do the Green Book. And the Green Book will still be here. If you just really can't do the app, sometimes pushing technology is like pushing wet spaghetti. It just doesn't kind of work. But we will. I think it's going to make it stronger. And when you see the interaction of it, it's going to make us a better club. Okay. With that. So we do have a find. Does anybody know where Rosalie and Dr. Brunetti is today? They're hiking, exactly. Did anybody get a picture of them hiking? I did. I got one yesterday. I said, hey, look at us. And they were missing their third musketeer, Miss Carrie Groves, who I see is here. So, Carrie, if you could let them know that they've each been fined $250 for Santa Claus, that would be super helpful. I'm pretty busy. When I get pictures of them just having a great time, it's awesome. So good for them. A reminder that if you are on vacation, send us your pictures. Brandon was just showing me pictures. He took his family back to Plymouth, Massachusetts last week. Had a fantastic time. Let's get your pictures up on the screen. That's super important to see people having a good time. You might get fined for it, but we'll deal with that later. Okay, I think it's time for a raffle. Get out your tickets, please. Okay, the winning ticket, 622-0773. 0773. Wow, comes back from vacation, he's already winning. All right, Mr. Larry, pickleball guy, pick us a number here. 7 of hearts. See you next week. Here's your $10. Thanks for playing, sir. I guess probably part of the turnover of taking over presidency was to actually ensure there is a joker in the deck. Got to do that. Okay, the next ticket for the Lowry Bucks, $50 in Lowry Bucks, 622-0538. 0538. 622-0538. All right, past President Brock Fraser. Another traveler.
You want to see it too? No,
that's it. Close enough, Brock.
Good job.
All right, with that, we have about 5 minutes for fellowship, so enjoy yourselves and talk about where you're traveling next. Okay, if I could have your attention again, we have an honored guest here today, and in keeping with our theme of history and our America 250, today we're going to narrow attention. We need Janice here. In keeping with our theme of kind of America 250 and history from last week, now we're going to get a little bit more local, and I would ask past President Michael Ballard to introduce our guest speaker.
Fourth generation.
So I'm excited to introduce my good friend. I think of all the members of the club, I don't think I've known anybody longer than I've known David Jones, because we met our senior year in high school. So I was there. I think I was hanging out with him the night he met his wife. Actually, I knew Annie's family. I also graduated high school with Annie's son. And so this isn't about me though, so back to David. David is a grandfather, of which I'm very jealous. He has 5 grandsons. They haven't figured out how to have granddaughters yet, but they know how to have grandsons. And you can read David's professional bio. You know, he's got a long career in banking and works for Northern Trust, that happens to be the group that handles our foundation finances right now. But when I was about to become president, he was one of the guys that I wanted to have join the club, and Randy Campanelli and I worked on him to join the club. And we're excited to have him in the club, and he's been a great servant to the club. He came to the 100th anniversary gala and learned a lot about the history of Vegas, and then his wife said, I became a widow that night because he started focusing on a book on the untold stories of the history of Las Vegas, and he's got some very interesting stories. Please help me welcome Mr. David Jones.
Good job.
I have too many untold stories for time today, so I'm going to make sure that I end on time. I'm curious, or I will be curious to learn. Oh, can we switch? We're switching. I'm going to move this up to the side. There we go. If anybody's learned anything new from what I had to say, because there are a lot of people that are born and raised in Las Vegas. How many are born and raised here? Okay, so yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people that are born and raised here, and we've got our own little stories, and that's kind of what led me to this. Actually, it was working with Katie on the Centennial, and I was researching some of our founding members from 1923, and as I started to do that, I was going into the library, I was going into the archives, and I was like, oh my goodness, I know these people, and these people are in my neighborhood growing up, or at least they're kids, and so all of a sudden I started to do this research, and I realized there's a lot of what I know about Las Vegas that I think is sort of folklore. And so I wanted to find out whether or not some of those things were true. And that led me down a rabbit hole that I'm grateful for my wife. Now it's been 3 years, and I want to make sure that there we go. That I've learned a lot about Las Vegas. So some of this I'm going to cover things that you guys know. But hopefully I'll add some additional insight to the things that I've learned. One of the things that I've learned about history is that it is incredibly imprecise. There are people that remember things and they don't remember them accurately, and sometimes you have to have 3 or 4 sources to get information, and you just go with what you've got. That's why I'm writing historical fiction, because I realize that the historical events are one aspect, but the people that created those events are what really I've tended to focus on. So I'm going to talk about 3 people today. It's not necessarily character studies, but you'll get to see the kind of people that they are and the characters that they had and what they did for Las Vegas. So I'm going to talk about 3 people. John Thomas McWilliams. That name sound familiar? J.T. McWilliams, thank you. Senator William Andrews Clark County, for which our namesake in Clark County is. And then another one that I know you don't know, Genevieve Little. And we'll talk about Genevieve Little and her parents. So we'll start with, I spent a lot of time on this particular map because this map demonstrates that there were actually 2 Las Vegases when we first began. And so there is come on, I'm waiting for you to move. Here we go. The original town site of Las Vegas, I'm going to show you pictures of what the original town site is at the end of this first part. But there is a PhD study that has not been released. It's called A Tale of 2 Town Sites. So I plagiarized that for this today. But there really were, because the guy won't release it. He's a great historian, but he's still hanging close to it. So I'm curious to compare his notes with mine. But there were 2 town sites originally, and the first one was not the Las Vegas that we know today. But I want to first start with why Las Vegas in the first place. Back in the 1700s, there was the Spanish explorers came across, and they didn't want to go from, oops, I'm going to move this over here. They didn't want to go from Santa Fe directly through the arid zona because it was just too dry and desert. I mean, it was impassable with a wagon train. So they created this Spanish trail that came up through where Cedar Breaks is, Brian Head, down through Parowan, that area, and then it came down basically along I-15, and it came down and it stopped here because we had Senator Clark's trains. No. We did have water, but that's why Senator Clark came through here. So he followed when he wanted to get his trains filled with copper ore, and that's how he made most of his money. He needed a place to get him to the port in Los Angeles, which is where it followed that old Spanish trail. And so basically, he bought a train, and he came back up, and he built the whole train. A lot of complications with that, but I'll just leave it at that. Senator Clark is the one that we attribute the original train that came through here, and that's where Las Vegas came into play. And because Senator Clark there were steam engines, he needed water, and so he picked a spot that was a halfway point between Salt Lake and Los Angeles, and it came right through here, which was, I'm not going to show you a picture of the original pond yet. This is a map of the original 1,834 acres that he purchased from Helen Stewart. So The reason that he purchased that is because he needed two things. He needed water, but he also needed to build a town so that he could service those trains as well. He needed people to work on those trains in case they were broken. And that's the reason, is that original Big Springs. This is where the Springs Preserve is today. By the way, these don't exist anymore. They're all dried up or down below. But the interesting thing about this right here, from newspaper articles that I've read back in 1905, they actually tested the depth of this pool, 70 feet deep. Somebody actually put an anvil on the end of a rope, threw it in there, measured it out, pulled it up. 70 feet deep, continual flow of artesian water that bubbled up from the ground, and it created this beautiful, very tiny creek that went from this part to this part. So notice that Clark bought everything. He bought the springs because he wanted the water rights, but then he also bought all the way down to the Las Vegas or Helen Stewart's ranch, and the ranch actually had alfalfa. It also had orchards, but this is where the old Mormon fort was. And I didn't have time to give you why the Mormon fort was located there, so we're just going to skip it. Helen Stewart did not trust Senator Clark. He was not a very trustworthy guy, and I'll get into a little bit about that. How many know Senator Clark was not particularly trustworthy? Okay, some of you do that, and I apologize for some of the details that I'm about to share, but yeah, I figured you might as well know that as well. He's the third person. Oops, let's go. Okay, there. All right, we're going to try that. So, because she didn't trust him, she wanted to make sure the actual acreage that she was selling would actually end up with what she was actually selling to Senator Clark was precise. So she hired this guy who used to work for the railroad. He was a surveyor for the railroad, and he wanted to double check the acreage. So Helen sent him out there, and he did that. And he noticed something as he was surveying Helen's property to be sold. He noticed that there was an unusual thing, and it was right here. 80 acres of land that Senator Clark and the railroad did not own. And he wondered, why was that the case? And if he didn't own it, apparently he didn't care about it. But more importantly, for anybody that knows real estate, that piece had 1,500 feet of railroad frontage. This was a gold mine for this guy. So he said, you know what, I'm going to buy the land, which he did, and I'm going to put my own town sign. I know months before Senator Clark gets his railroad in here and before his town site even gets up and running. So that's what he did. So J.T. McWilliams built the original, and it was called the original Las Vegas town site, completely populated it, very successful, months before the town site that we know today, which is Fremont Street and Main Street. Before that was even really mapped and available for sale. So he started there. All of these early pictures that many of you may have seen about Las Vegas. Oops, don't go there yet. Stop. No, because then I'm there. Anyway, here, I'll do this one. No, here we go. But anyway, he had a successful town site. Over 80 businesses, 1,000 people lived there. I mean, literally, brickyards. Sayers, a huge bottling company was there. Hotels, I misspelled that. Furniture stores, butcher stores, bakeries, barber shops, banks, 2 banks, one of which was Clark's, and he moved it. 2 local newspapers, post offices, real estate offices. I mean, there was everything there, including, of course, 20 very successful saloons that included gambling and men's entertainments. And that was part of our history. Senator Clark was, or I should say, J.T. Williams was so successful in building this town well before Senator Clark even got his stuff together. Senator Clark, and I'll just call him his lawyers, the other people, I'm just going to call them the railroad bros because that's the best way to describe who they were. But basically, all of those people, they had it out for J.T. McWilliams. They were not going to let this little punk surveyor succeed in front of one of the most wealthy men in the United States. So they decided, and they did, promote a slander campaign in the newspapers. They had newspaper men, they had people that were there And so they actually promoted huge slanderous things about J.T. Williams. Oops, here we go. Did I get that? Yeah. Go, 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 go. And because they controlled all those, wait, why are we doing this again? Stop and move. 4 drugstores, pharmacies, yeah, there we go. All right. Here is one of the newspaper articles in one of the Salt Lake newspapers. Boomtowns on the San Pedro. It was the San Pedro Railroad before it was the Salt Lake Railroad because they had to go to the port at San Pedro, which is where Los Angeles port is. J. Ross Clark, who was Clark's brother, went on a speaking campaign all through the western United States, basically saying that unsuspecting public is being swindled by land sharks who are gathering in the golden shekels. And I don't think J.T. Williams was particularly Jewish in any way, but they were gathering in the golden shekels. Anyway, I won't read the rest of it, but basically, look right here. They were promoting fake town sites. They said, don't be swindled by these naysayers who are there. He already had 1,000 people in very successful business, but they did not. Article after article in there. To understand why Clark did what he did and try to push down J.T. Williams, you got to understand a little bit about Senator Clark. He was known as the Montana Copper King. He never spent a night in Las Vegas, or to my knowledge, even more than 90 minutes. 90 minutes is the most I've ever found that he was even in Las Vegas or Clark County at all. By the way, we were part of Lincoln County at the time. But he never spent any time here. This was just a political venture, a business venture. This is what he was doing. He started out young, poor kid from Pennsylvania, the second son, or the second child of 11 kids. He was the oldest boy. By the age of 16, he moved out he wanted to go west, so he ended up in Iowa. Not much happened there. By the time he was in his early 20s, he headed off to Montana for the gold, silver, and copper mines that were there. And he realized that when he was there, he didn't like to do manual labor. He wanted to use his head instead of his hands to make money. And so what he discovered was in those mining camps, very remote, that he could actually provide supplies to the miners, and what would normally cost $1, he could sell them for 10, 15, or more. I mean, he was incredibly efficient at gouging people. And that's how he made his wealth. He started there basically selling things that he would buy for cheap in Salt Lake City. He'd bring them up to the mining things, and then he would triple, quadruple, 15 times he would sell the goods there. His wealth continued to increase, and eventually he started buying into the mining operations that were there, just partial ownership, until eventually he started to own them, and then he owned them outright, and he became known as the Copper King. His copper was, and again, this is the Industrial Revolution, or at least electrical revolution, so copper wiring started going everywhere. The Statue of Liberty was built with his copper. I mean, his copper was everywhere. He was a very, very wealthy guy. That's how he went from this guy to this guy. Literally, I mean, 2 nickels to rub together to more wealth than he knew what to do with. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about his family. So Senator Clark started out, he married his wife at the age of 30, just as his fortune was growing. Catherine was 24 when they got married. They had 6 kids together, they raised those kids, and then Catherine, after 24 years of being married, she died in October of 1893. And she left Senator Clark, a very wealthy widower, at the age of 54. It's well documented that Senator Clark had a penchant for teenage girls. And so I'm just going to give you 2 little examples. But one particular girl he saw in one of the theaters, a blonde beauty is what he described her. And basically he promoted her. He sent her he said, hey, I'll help you with your education. He sent her to New York as a teenager, where he had this huge, ridiculous mansion. But she enrolled in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And from there, he bankrolled her career actually to be one of the early silent film stars, Her name was Catherine Williams. And so she attributes her success to him. He was the one that found her in the middle of Montana and bankrolled her up to do that, but started off as a young girl. But that wasn't the real scandal that actually Senator Clark was mostly involved with. The real one was happened 3 months before his wife had passed away in 1893. She passed away in October. January before, July, Clark was in Montana, in Butte, Montana, attending a 4th of July parade. And he's watching the parade and he's seeing how great it is. And the main float in the parade is a woman, 15 years old. Beautiful, long, brunette hair, dressed as the Statue of Liberty. Everybody cheers, everybody hollers, what a great, our town's, nice little girl is the Statue of Liberty. Her name, here's a picture of her. Her name was Anna Eugenia La Chapelle. I think that's how you pronounce it. Annie, that's La Chapelle. How would you pronounce French? I'm not a very good pronunciator of French. So with this girl, he did the same thing. I think it was kind of par for his course, offered to pay for her education. But this time, instead of sending her to New York like he did with Kathleen, he sent her to Paris. And so now, at a teenager, she goes off to Paris. Her parents apparently allow it. She goes off to Paris. She's in conservatory. She's in boarding school. She goes off to learn to play the harp. And I didn't have time to put a picture of her with her harp in there, but she did that. Well, it was sooner than later that she actually delivered Clark's second family, Louise, and so she had that baby. And interesting, like my wife was telling me this, what about her marriage? What about when they got married? There's never been a marriage certificate. Clark said, I married her in France, no marriage certificate has ever come up, exactly 9 months before this baby was born. So I guess we have to take him at his word because that's what he said. But here's a picture of Senator Clark with his second family. Remember, at this point, he already had 6 kids. They were adults. Some of them married. Some of them were divorced and remarried. He had 6 grandchildren. Now he's got this new family. I don't think they blended very well, but I don't think that was the kind of man that he was. But here's a picture of him. He had 2 children from Anna Eugenia. One of them was Louise Amelia, and the other one was Huguette. And there's a book called Empty Mansions that's all about Huguette and what she did and how she was very reclusive in managing his fortune. Clark had everything at this point. He had power, he had money, he had everything except, I'll use this word, respect. He was a nouveau riche, Jed Clampett kind of millionaire. He wasn't like the Rockefellers, he wasn't like the J.P. Morgan, he wasn't like the Vanderbilts, he was this guy, but he was wealthy. And the thing that he thought maybe would make him have distinction was to be a United States Senator. So he ran for the Senate seat in Montana, and he won. And so, as he's there now in Washington, D.C., ready to take his seat, he goes to Washington, D.C., he's ready to be now a U.S. Senator, because it was a big deal for him to be a senator. The Senate would not seat him and give him his seat. They refused. In fact, they said that there was a petition that was filed against him, and he was accused of bribery so foul and so blatant that they would not seat him. 5 months of Senate investigations and Senate hearings. You can look it up. It's all on Senate.gov. It's all there. You can read it for yourself. Finally, after all of this, the Senate concluded, we're not going to seat him. He doesn't deserve to be here. Absolutely not. They convene to have a vote to expel him permanently. He says, can I speak to the Senate floor? So they allow him to speak. After he claims, this is unjust, this is disgraceful, you guys shouldn't do this. At the very end of that speech, he says, and I will resign my seat. And he sat down. By resigning his seat, they couldn't be expelled. He couldn't be held out, whatever. Interesting thing, that very same afternoon, the acting lieutenant governor of the state of Montana sent a telegram to the Senate Majority Leader naming Clark's replacement to replace his vacated seat. And it was none other than William Andrews Clark. He resigned in the morning, he got appointed to that seat, and he served the full 6 years. Couldn't get expelled, couldn't get kicked out. Literally, he served the entire time. That's our namesake. That's our guy. He was accused of bribery. And so basically, he bribed the legislature in Montana to do that. And the newspapers had a heyday with him. And this was one of his very proud quotes that they used many times in the newspaper, which is, "I have never bought a man who wasn't for sale." That is Senator Clark. Here, I just had to narrow this down to one newspaper so you can see it's really true. Here's his bribery campaign. And then again, I love this political cartoon that's there. Here's Senator Clark with one of his helpers throwing cash, and literally there were envelopes of cash that he gave to the state legislature to be able to buy his seat in Montana. So as he turned around and came back, there was this other political cartoon that said, "And the cat came back." You can't see the diction on there, but there's Senator Clark with money in his eyes as a cat that just can't get rid of him. So he comes back again, but he only served one term. The far-reaching implications of what Senator Clark did to get rid of that Senate seat is that eventually Congress passed the 17th Amendment to the Constitution. He caused us to now vote the way we vote for our U.S. senators because he bribed them. So the 17th Amendment basically says that senators have to be now directly voted on by the people, not by the legislature who could be bribed. Because it's harder to bribe 10,000 or 500,000 people rather than the small legislature that's up there. So all of those things we can attribute to our namesake. And I think he's a pretty... So I'll just say this. He's a fascinating guy, and there's not a lot that's written about him. And I wonder why, because there's a lot more. He did some good things, and he did some pretty rotten things, pretty bad things. But I love this picture because I used to have a Mr. Monopoly that went up right around that. I mean, if you look at Community Chance, he's got the thing with he's riding on the train. This is Senator Clark. Get out of jail free. Senator Clark, $200 pass go. Every time you spin around, he's just making money. I mean, it was like that. Mark Twain, who wrote Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, somebody asked him what he thought of Senator Clark. And how many of you know the quote? Oh, good, not many of you. I'm going to give it to you right here. This is what Mark Twain said about our namesake. Williams Andrew Clark is as rotten a human being as can be found anywhere under the flag. His history is known to everybody. Clark is a shame to the American nation. And anyone who helped to send Clark to the Senate knows that Clark's proper place is in the penitentiary with a ball and chain on his legs. To my mind, Senator Clark is the most disgusting creature that the Republic has ever produced. And that's why I started doing the historical fiction book about how Las Vegas came to be, because it's a lot more interesting than you may think. So I'm going to jump back to Las Vegas and our namesake, but there was a big land auction, and this is how it all started. Remember, there were two town sites. McWilliams town site had 1,000 people, 80 businesses, and then there was Clark's town site. It was completely vacant, nothing there. I mean, there weren't even, I think there were just stakes in the ground to lay out what the plots would be. Clark rolls into town. These guys up here, man, these are an interesting group of characters as well. I wish I had time to talk about it. But it was set for the auction. They wanted to do an auction because they could make more money. They had Monday and Tuesday, but the auction actually went on all week. But this was the auction. They publicized this far and wide. Again, claiming, don't go buy at McWilliams town site, come to buy at our town site. This was the Salt Lake Tribune, but in LA Times it's the same newspaper. 1,200 lots were for sale, and everybody knows this is downtown Las Vegas today. Fremont Street is right there, all the rest of it, and you can see where things are today. But basically, here was where the auction actually took place, was right there at the corner of Stewart and Main Street, right where Main Street Station is today. They put up this auction stand, And on the top, you can see there's all the railroad rows, and then down here on the bottom, they have a big map, so you can pick which lot you want to buy on. I love this picture, and my wife always finds this. So these are all the railroad rows that are up here. Standing below them, I like to see metaphors and things, are all the townsfolk, all the local yokels, the mayor, the other people that are kind of the city council from McWilliams Townsite, not in his township, but they put them all here. I don't know if this photo was taken this way intentionally, but I like to point out these two men. I just think it's funny, and what a coincidence that a photographer who literally has to set up a camera and take a picture like that allowed these two guys to turn around and do that, but they did. Here's a picture of the original of the when the town site was going on. They said thousands of people came into town for this. I don't know if there's thousands of people there, but you can see back over here. This is where the auction stand was. So with all of this going on, now you've got J.T. McWilliams. He's getting a little nervous because J.T. McWilliams sold most of his town site on contract for sale deeds. Basically, they were rent to own. So people that came in, he made it easy for them to buy stuff. And then immediately after the auction, many of those people have completely abandoned his thing. Here are the early picture town sites. All of these are in the Williams town site. There's no pictures of Las Vegas when it first started because there weren't any. Las Vegas wasn't our Las Vegas as we know it today. These two pictures. If you notice down here, this is Dr. Rucker's, interesting guy as well. This was his house. You can see that, or not his house, this was his business. Right here on the foundation, there is no foundation. He put it on 2x4s. And so very easily, other people, by the way, I have to say that 2 weeks before the auction, the big auction on May 15th and 16th, J.T. McWilliams' plat map and his book of records was stolen out of his residence. Every record of every person he sold to, how much they paid, who they were, how much they owed, if they were, everything ended up in the hands of somebody, and this is what happened. I don't know if those are related, but to me it's pretty obvious that they were related. Everybody packed up, and it took about a week, maybe 2 weeks, but literally everybody that was in McWilliams town site did this. They jacked up their buildings, they put them on sleds, or they put them on wagons. These aren't actually from the Las Vegas, but this is what they did. And they dragged them across the tracks because now McWilliams town site was on the wrong side of the tracks, literally. And everybody moved over to Clark's Las Vegas town site. The first residents were the saloons. They were the ones, and there's so many great stories about the saloons, the people and the owners and all that went on there. But basically that was the first one in Block 16. A lot was going on over there. And then eventually just people kept coming and it just kept coming. Most people started out with tents. Some of them had prefab buildings that they would put together. And there was a Long Beach cottage company. And basically they sold prefab mobile homes. And so they'd send them up on the train and people would just set them up, pick them up, move them to wherever they wanted to go. J.T. McWilliams' town site at this point was nearly abandoned. He had a few people that were there, completely devastated, completely destitute. But that was not good enough to push J.T. McWilliams into the ground. I don't know who did it, because it's not been known. But literally 3.5 months after his town was abandoned, the final nail in the coffin for J.T. McWilliams and McWilliams' original town site was this. On Wednesday evening, September 6th, they call it Ragtown. In the newspapers, they call it Ragtown. Burned down. Somebody set it on fire. Wooden, no water, off it goes. That was literally the end of McWilliams' town site. I'm going to read these. This is from the Las Vegas Age. Fire sweeps town of Las Vegas. Got to read this correctly. The fire has swept out of existence. I'm going to give you this. You're going to read it closer. Turn it this way. A fire has swept out of existence the once lively portion of Old Town, or McWilliams, Las Vegas. The fire had full sweep, there being no water to stop it. Until Clark's Las Vegas became a fact, the Old Town was one of the liveliest places in the West. Indeed it was. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to Q&A. Oh, I didn't get to my last story. Let me finish this last little bit so we can get that. Obviously it was incendiary, thank you. Let me finish this a little bit, we won't do the last one. Fading away, fire aids in the depletion of Ragtown, as if not satisfied with the commercial and social dearth of Ragtown. And literally the newspapers called it Ragtown. I mean, they wouldn't let up on their derision of the place. The fire fiend has stepped in and added devastation to desertion. Here's the best one. Yes, McWilliams Town site is what McWilliams is. No good. Little typo here by the typesetter. The fire came, the fire saw, the fire conquered. Thus ended, the Old Town is truly but a memory. I gotta just finish with this really quick. Whoops. So you can see what Old Town is today. Stay put. So, here we are with Senator Clark. Here's where it is today. Senator Clark, certainly, one, money prevails sometimes. And I like the little smile that I put on there. This is McWilliams Town site today. Complete devastation. 120 years later, buildings dilapidated, never recovered. Literally 120 years later. If any of you have been on this end of town, here's a close-up. I mean, it just continues to struggle despite improvements and everything else that they put in there. And I just keep thinking of all the ghosts of the yesteryear when they were there and all the things that happened there. And today, there's very, very few residents. And with that, I will go to question and answer. We won't talk about the first baby this morning. So, questions? Larry, you're on. Randy. Oh, Randy's right there.
Well, you didn't have time to tell the rest of the story.
Oh, there's more. There's so many great stories.
That's directly related to our club.
Oh, right.
Which is Paul Maffey. Is Paul Maffey here? Well, Mr. Taberti grew up in one of the railroad cottages in the original Clark, where the railroad put them together. And for the 100th anniversary of Las Vegas, our Rotary Club moved. Cost $30,000. We moved not the Taberti Railroad Cottage because the family moved that one, but our Rotary Club moved it from its original site to the Springs Preserve. It took a few years for them to actually site it in the town. So when you see that Rotary thing on the Old Town and the Springs Preserve, one of those houses was Mr. Taberti's and the other was moved by the Las Vegas Rotary Club.
Yep, my dad grew up in one of those little railroad cottages as well.
Great job, thank you, David. Can you tell us, McWilliams, where those streets are, roughly where those border streets are?
Yeah, it's basically the historic west side. Historic west side of Las Vegas today. That's what it is. The alphabet streets, A through N.
Okay.
All of those streets that are right there. They renamed some of those streets because they duplicated what Clark put in his town. But they renamed one of them actually McWilliams Street. And so you can find it today and go down and look at it. Yeah. More questions? Katie.
How did the San Pedro Railroad
turn into the Union Pacific? Because it was the Union Pacific that did the auction, I think.
Correct. So Senator Clark purchased the short line railroad from San Pedro to Los Angeles. He purchased that. That gave him the end. And then he started building from Los Angeles north. And then Harriman, who actually he ended up owning it. And thank goodness for Harriman because Harriman knew what he was doing, in my opinion. Harriman was building down the south, and it was at the Mountain Meadows, or not Mountain Meadows, but at the Meadows right outside of Logandale, where the two came together and basically got in a shooting match over whose tracks were going to go through that little narrow canyon. And after 3 years of negotiation, finally, they said, all right, we're gonna make you guys work together. So Clark and Harriman were the two that owned it, and then Harriman eventually became the Union Pacific, probably 15, 20 years later.
Okay. Another connection with our club, one of our past presidents, Rob Moore, was the grandson of the attorney that did the auction for the Union Pacific.
Charles Whittemore.
No, it was Matt Levy.
Matt Levy was the auctioneer. Okay.
The attorney for the auction.
Yeah, I see. These are the things that I want to. Those are the connections, the people that were actually here doing it. It's awesome. What else?
Well, you have to come back and tell us the rest of the story.
Oh, good. I'm gonna give it back to you.
David, that was fantastic. So when did your family start here in Las Vegas?
So actually, my family moved 1895. My grandfather was born in Moapa Valley, in a little mud lean-to. In fact, his uncle, I like to tell the story because part of my research, his brother actually was murdered in El Dorado Canyon down by the mines. He was the second person murdered of 7 that eventually became Nelson's Landing. George Nelson was the 7th guy murdered. My granduncle, nameless, Isaac Benjamin Jones, nobody knows about it, but he was the second guy that was murdered. So we've been here since 1895.
So I was going to say I want to start hanging around with you a little bit more, but now I'm not too sure. So, David, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. We wish you the best in your book. We can't wait to see the title.
So can my wife. You can't wait.
Of course, we have a Club Service Award donation to the Ronald McDonald House. We have, and Sandy, if you want to join us up here also.
Come on up.
I'm sure you already have one of these, but I'm trying to get rid of them. So.
My writer's widow. She says she's very lonely.
I have this for you. I have this for you also. You got to shake my hand. Challenge point. There you go. America 250. And for Sandy, I was trying to figure out who would get this, and you just seem like the right person. So this is a law of attraction planner. You can plan out all your days with him. One more picture.
Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks everybody for being here today. It's another great meeting. Remember, we got to close it. I'm going to tell you what to say. All right. I'm going to say you want to be here. You're going to say I need to be here. I'm going to say I feel that need, and you're going to say that need for rotary speed. All right, you got it? 1, 2, 3. You want to be here. I feel that need. Woo! There you go. We'll work on the second part next week.